Hey everybody, it's Michael here from Replica Airguns with another tabletop video for everybody. I will be following this tabletop video up shortly with a field test shooting video, hopefully next week, so I'm not going to have actual results for this pistol, but I have reviewed a very similar pistol back in 2012, the actual Crosman 357, so I can kind of give you some feedback. This gun should perform very similar in the field test video, so I will comment on that. But today we're going to look at specifications, features, benefits, things like that. I'm going to show you this gun up a little closer and compare it to a few older Crosman 357s. This gun, by the way, is available in our Canada and US Replica Airguns Store over in our online stores at replicairguns.ca and replicaairguns.us. I'll put links in the description if you're interested in purchasing this revolver. And this is the Crosman Vigilante .177 caliber pellet and BB CO2 revolver. And this is the tabletop review, so no shooting. Now, over the years, this gun has had several names. It's kind of looked very similar. Basically, the receiver portion, so not really the barrel, but the receiver, hasn't changed all that much. It's been called the 357W, the 357-6, the 357GW, and there's a lot of older versions from the early 80s to the late 90s, even some in .22 caliber versions. But let's get into the specifications for this newest version, this Vigilante version. The Vigilante is a metal and plastic constructed gun. It uses 12-gram CO2 cartridges. It shoots .177 caliber pellets and 4.5 millimeter steel BBs. It includes both the 6-shot and 10-shot plastic rotary magazines. The 6-shot holds the steel BBs, and the 10-shot holds the pellets. You get the Vigilante 6-inch rifled barrel that includes Picatinny rails top and bottom. The full length of this revolver is 11.36 inches or 28.9 centimeters total length. It has a single and double action trigger, and it shoots up to 435 FPS using pellets and 465 FPS using steel BBs. This gun weighs in at right around 2 pounds or about 900 grams and has a fully adjustable rear sight with a cross bolt safety across the hammer. That's not really a true replica, but it's kind of a close copy of the Colt Python 357 Magnum. This gun is made in the USA, but parts come from all around the world. It does come in plastic packaging, which I'm going to show you right now. Nothing fancy. So the gun would be in here, obviously, in that molded cutout area or the molded area there. So if you're Vigilante semi-auto, CO2, pellets, and BBs, you can see the 2 magazines included there, right? On the back, see if I can get in here. You have some specifications again that kind of go over what I already went over there, right? So all the same stuff. You can see some ammo options, Crosman's ammo options, warning instructions, right? Things like that. Now the pellet magazine is in it. This is the 6-round BB magazine. You can see it's a little bit different. You actually load the BBs from the front versus the back. You load the pellets from the back when you have the pellet magazine, but the BBs would go in here. It's like there's these little clips that hold them in there. Kind of neat. Also, you get your just basically printed instruction sheet. Okay, I'm not going to go over all of this stuff. Just instructions or destructions, however you want to call it. Okay, so not the prettiest manual, but it gets the job done. Now I want to compare it to some other Crosman 357s. So let's compare it to the one that I reviewed back in 2012. And so this would essentially be the same barrel length, as you can see here. It's just your standard sort of 357, vented barrel that you would have found back in that era. Neat barrel. Really, essentially, it's the same gun. This one has a dovetail rail on the top for mounting, if you wanted to mount something on there, red dot or whatever. So maybe not as nice of mounting solutions with the older version or the non-Vigilante version versus you've got this Picatinny rail setup, top and bottom, still with the venting. Definitely a nicer looking barrel, in my opinion, on the Vigilante, but really the same gun. When you look at the receiver and the grips, it's almost identical. Same rear adjustable sight, okay? Going back a bit further, I'm not exactly sure how old this gun is, but you'll notice this is like an 8-inch version of the barrel. So 6-inch, 8-inch. This barrel's all metal versus plastic on the Vigilante. and plastic on the older 357 original one here, or back in the 2000s, early mid 2000s, right? So okay, let's take a look a little bit here. A little bit different in the grips as well, because we have this molded grip, which is kind of hard to open, but you'll see that the actual frame, right, the receiver, is more specific to your typical Revolver grip versus the combat grip that you're going to find on the Vigilante and the Crosman 357 that I reviewed back in 2012. So this area, this metal area, has been sort of redone here to allow for the smaller grip, the more combat style grip. Okay, so other than that though, these guns are very similar. You can see the frame is very similar, the way that the gun barrel opens up, swivels down, right, with the same catch system on both of them. I'll show you that a little bit more on the Vigilante in a second. Same trigger setup, right? Double on that, single action trigger. You know, they feel about the same, but I think the trigger is actually a little smoother on the Vigilante. Maybe because this is an older pistol. I'm not sure exactly how old this gun is, but it's definitely older. All right, since the grip's off, let's take a quick look in there, right? You've got your CO2 tab. Okay, right, and you can actually pop both of them off, put your CO2 in, makes it a little easier to do it up, right? Put your grip back on, close it up. When you're done, you need to pull that up there. Okay, all right, so let's just do a quick walk around. I'll show you the gun before I open it up and everything. You see you've got your nice barrel. I really like the design of the barrel. I think it looks great. Got your Picatinny rail on the top, this sort of venting here. Post sight, no white dot sight though, unfortunately. It would have been nice to have white dots in there. Picatinny on the bottom, right? No recessed barrel, but that does take advantage of the full 6-inch barrel, right? And this gun is about performance. It's not just, you know, it's not maybe going to be the most realistic in terms of being a replica, but it looks good, and it's a performance gun. It really does perform decent, and you're going to get a lot of shots per CO2, not wasting a lot of CO2 with the design of this gun. You're going to get 10 rounds with pellets, 6 rounds with BBs. It's a rifled steel barrel inside of the plastic. You can see there, it's metal on the inside, plastic on the outside. You know, the trigger's decent in semi-auto, or sorry, in single action. It's got a nice, virtually zero take-up. See, there's like really no take-up at all. Fairly light, not super light, so it's not overly sensitive. No white dot sights in the back, but it is fully adjustable for windage and elevation. So elevation and windage. Crossbolt safety going on there, okay? Right? So, see there how that works. You know, not super realistic in this area, but it does, like I said, get the job done, and it's fairly efficient, fairly high FPS compared to shell loading, similar type revolvers that are shell loading, right? That you load the BB or pellet into the shell, then you put that into the revolver, the cylinder. So in this case, it's a little different, but it does work, and it is more efficient, maybe more powerful as well. Metal trigger, metal hammer, metal receiver, plastic clips or magazines, and then you've got the plastic barrel, outer barrel, which isn't going to give it a ton of forward weight, but it's, you know, the gun is 2 pounds. That being metal would have been nice, I think, just because it would have added a little bit more weight to the front of the gun, maybe made the balance slightly better. The balance isn't bad. Got your Crosman branding there. The grips are nice. They are a little bit, possibly a little bit large for smaller hands because the trigger is quite a bit forward. And there's not a ton of room in here. If you got sausage fingers, it's going to be a little bit tougher. I don't have sausage fingers, so it's not too bad. But if you do have sausage fingers, you can always put it in single action. It gives you more room, right? Once your finger's in there, it's not so bad, okay? So definitely some workarounds for different sized hands, but no problem for most people, I would say. All right, getting into the performance, when I performed my test on my 357, so this exact gun back in 2012, I was able to get right around 400 feet per second using 6.9 grain lead pellets. You know, so that's not too bad. If I had lighter pellets, I would definitely be able to get up and higher into the 435 claimed FPS. I also believe I did a full magazine test. I can't remember exactly, but I was able to get a 1-inch grouping at 30 feet. Pretty sure it was with 10 rounds. So I will be revisiting this gun in the field test and going over those velocity and accuracy tests for you guys, hopefully next week, early next week. And again, the trigger is pretty decent. Got a light single action, but not too light. And the double action is definitely usable. It's not super heavy, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's light or even medium. It's ranging or verging on the heavier side, but definitely usable. All right, let's get into some pros and cons. The Crosman Vigilante is an inexpensive pellet revolver with a proven track record that goes back decades. So you know Crosman's worked out all the bugs with this style of revolver. You're going to find good usage of metal parts where you need them the most. Got a metal trigger, hammer, frame, barrel, or the inner barrel that is, CO2 tab screw. I like the single and double action trigger, so you can do some action shooting or pull that hammer back and focus more on accuracy. And again, the accuracy and the power was definitely reasonable, and you will get a good amount of shots per CO2. I do like the fully adjustable rear sights, and you can mount optics on the Picatinny barrel top and bottom rails if you want to put either a laser, red dot, maybe a tactical light, something like that on this revolver. And it's nice that the CO2 tab is hidden inside of the actual grips. And again, it does come with both BB and pellet magazines. Although I'd recommend shooting pellets in this gun since it is a rifled barrel, and steel BBs, if you use them often, can damage the rifling on barrels. All right, some cons. The outer barrel is plastic, but it's very solid. Metal would have added a bit more forward weight, perhaps giving this gun a better balance. And again, the grips and the trigger pull length, so it's kind of further out, may be a bit large or long for smaller handed people when shooting, especially in double action. Again, watch it if you have sausage fingers. You're going to have to start it out in single action at least to get your finger in there. And it's not your most realistic looking revolver in terms of replicas that are out there. It's not shell loading. It doesn't have the swing out cylinder. But again, it's probably a more usable pistol in terms of actual shooting experience. And again, there's no white dot sights. Would have been nice to have white dot sights, especially if you're shooting on darker backgrounds. All right, again, I want to remind you this product is available in our Canada and US Replica Airgun Store. I'll put links in the description. We also have other products in our Canada and US stores: air guns, BB guns, airsoft guns, blank guns, pellet guns, and accessories. And the URLs are replicaairguns.ca for Canada and replicaairguns.us for the US. If you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe before you head out. Also check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Username is Replica Airguns. All right, thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.